Look closely at this ancient Hebrew parchment. This scroll contains the text of 1 Samuel chapter 29, outlining one of the most agonizing political traps in recorded history. The story centers right here, among the ruins of the Aphek fortress. Thousands of Philistine soldiers are massing in this exact location, preparing for a decisive invasion into Israelite territory. If you inspect the ranks of this invading army, you find a jarring anomaly. Marching right alongside the Philistines is David, the anointed future king of Israel. He didn't join them out of treason. David has been living as a fugitive, hiding deep behind enemy lines to survive relentless assassination attempts by his own ruler, King Saul. For months, blending in kept him alive. Now that survival strategy has backfired, locking him onto a direct collision course with his homeland. In this logic tree, if David sides with the Philistines, he slaughters his own people, permanently destroying his right to the Israelite throne. Alternatively, turning his weapons against the Philistines mid-battle commits treason against King Achish, his only asylum provider. It is a zero-sum game. If he fights for physical survival, he destroys his identity and faith. If he stays loyal to Israel, he guarantees his immediate execution. He lacks the political leverage or military power to extract himself. Every conceivable move on the board leads to his ruin. The tension breaks when the Philistine coalition lords begin inspecting their troops. As they review the rearguard, they spot David and his band of Hebrew mercenaries. These commanders are immediately suspicious, and history is on their side. In past conflicts, Hebrew mercenaries have a known track record of flipping their allegiances mid-combat to rejoin their countrymen. The Philistine lords see a massive tactical vulnerability in their rearguard. They calculate the easiest way for David to win back King Saul's favor would be by turning his blade against the Philistines. Look at this ancient iron dagger. This artifact highlights the reality of the era's battlefield stakes. The Philistines maintained military superiority through their monopoly on iron weapons like this one, refusing to give a rogue Hebrew unit the chance to use that weaponry against them. The commanders issue an absolute veto against David's participation, creating an immovable political blockade that forces the issue all the way up to their king. The response from the Philistine leadership is fractured. King Achish steps in and fiercely defends David, arguing with his own generals to keep the Hebrew mercenaries in the ranks. Achish's trust isn't baseless. During his time in exile, David executed his duties with such careful precision that he convinced the king of his absolute loyalty. But the Philistine political system relies on a coalition. Even with royal authority, King Achish doesn't hold absolute power. The unified front of the Philistine lords possesses enough collective leverage to overrule their monarch. Trapped by his own generals, Achish executes a tactical dismissal. To prevent a mutiny, he diplomatically orders David to pack up his men and leave the encampment before dawn. David plays his part perfectly. He feigns deep insult, questioning why the king would doubt his loyalty, all while silently preparing his troops for an immediate retreat. It is a brilliant paradox. David's flawless conduct in exile built a shield of trust with the king, yet the bitter suspicion of his fiercest enemies triggered his extraction from the trap. As the sun rises, David and his men march away toward the city of Ziklag, leaving the battlefield behind them. He faced a scenario that guaranteed his destruction, and it was neutralized without a single weapon being drawn. This is a textbook example of providential preservation, the concept of God's invisible hand guiding the visible mechanics of earthly politics. The Philistine lords made their demands based entirely on their own selfish military strategy, yet they functioned as the exact instrument God used to rescue the future king of Israel. This humiliating public rejection functioned as a precise divine extraction from a war David could never win. This narrow bottleneck at Aphek served as a necessary crucible for David, shaping his reliance on a higher power before he could eventually assume the throne. God allowed him to walk to the edge of disaster. When human cunning ran out, David had no choice but to rely on divine sovereignty to survive. When viewed through the lens of a modern Bible study, David's trap mirrors the spiritual dilemmas people face today, where individuals feel paralyzed by conflicting loyalties. God sovereignly manages these catch-22s, often utilizing the bitter opposition of adversaries to protect our integrity. True providential preservation requires trusting the unseen strategist when the visible circumstances around us offer absolutely no way out.